One Page Weekly with Nick Slavik. Perspective, Idaho. Data plus feelings. Perspective can mean many things to many people. For artists, perspective can mean creating realistic-looking objects on a two-dimensional plane using converging lines on one or multiple vanishing points. Philosophical perspective can be a point of view or how we frame our reality. One of my mentors, a fine artist, showed me why the images I drew looked unrealistic. He used a scientific system of lines, all terminating at a single point, then altered his image to conform to them, giving his work true depth and realism. People who practice artistic perspective are proven to have increased activity in the part of the brain that helps with perspective. In business, managers are 40% more effective in motivating teams when they have a developed sense of perspective. Salespeople are 30% more effective when they openly take in perspective of their clients, and they get more win-win situations. It seems that all I do is wander around and gather perspective. I need to know the highs and the lows, the rights and the lefts, boundaries of what is, so that I can frame my decision based on reality, not my often skewed feelings. I think this came from my childhood and lack of perspective, but I can't be certain. As you can imagine, the discovery phase of things is thrilling to me. Buying my first house, getting married, starting a family, and creating a business gives me tons of energy. But those bridges were crossed almost 2 decades ago. There have been lesser bits of pure discovery since, but not like those ones, until last week. My cousin Jack lives in Idaho. His friend Cam lives there as well, and is an avid Western hunter. The large animal heads on his wall gave him away, and also sparked a long conversation about big game hunting almost a year ago, when my family visited for Jack's wedding. Plans for mountain hunting were made, and I followed up intentionally so that the accord was not empty. Last week I found myself standing with my 2 boys on the top of a ridge at 8,000 feet of elevation, watching the sun rise and set. I felt the thermals blow across my face in the mornings and my back in the evenings. It's pretty obvious where the perspective shift came if you've ever done this. I was smacked in the face with it the first night. Within a few hours of getting off the plane, we were in the mountains, crouched down and glassing a far hill with binoculars. Taking in plants, rocks, weather, sky, and all of the surroundings was a lot, and it was difficult to focus my mind from the beauty around me and pick apart a specific area looking for animals. Cam pointed out an elk, an 800-pound creature that's colored much differently from the mountain. It took me 5 minutes to realize that I was training my binoculars on it without actually seeing it. I had no perspective for what I was looking for. I knew what an elk looked like, but I didn't recognize it when I was looking at it. I took out my rangefinder, put it to my eye, clicked the button. Normally it would return a digital readout of the yards that separate me and this elk. It gave me an error message, again with the same result. Before reaching into my ruck and getting spare batteries, I picked out a tree much closer and clicked it again. 800 yards. It blew my mind. What I thought was less than 100 yards away was really a half a mile away, and the elk was likely more than 1 mile. If I'm being honest, I barely started to realize the distances and size and scope of the things I was looking at, even after almost 4 days of looking at them. Everything was new. I had no perspective. I could not have been happier. It gave me that old feeling of figuring it out, making something from nothing and then constantly improving. It's been a while, and the old feeling was like a welcomed old friend. This has been One Page Weekly with Nick Slavik.